Hello ladies and gentlemen, Ghost here, and Final Stand is also finally here. So I have spent a little bit of time this morning trying out the new Phantom Bow, which I was super excited about. I think it's a great addition to the game, and it also shows that DICE have been listening to the community. Everybody absolutely loved the crossbow that came along with the Aftermath DLC for Battlefield 3, so a Phantom Bow, you know, a compound bow, is a great addition to BF4. So the only way to currently access the bow, as I'm sure most of you already know, is to go into an unranked server where everything is unlocked. So when it comes to a loadout for the bow, you're going to have to stick with the mandatory iron sight and stabilizer, but you do get 3 ammo types to choose from. You have broadhead, which is the sort of default arrow, will do the most damage out of the 3. Then you have bullet point, which sacrifices a small amount of damage for a little bit more accuracy. And finally, explosive tip, which won't do as much damage as the broad point, but it will do a little bit of splash. So here at the moment I'm using the broadhead, and I will tell you guys that I never actually got round to trying out the bullet point because I didn't really feel the need to have any more increased accuracy for my shots. I felt that this thing had so little drop in this TDM server that I'm playing in here, it was completely unnecessary. And as you'll see later on when I change up to the explosive tip in the video, that thing just absolutely wrecks infantry. It doesn't do quite the same amount of damage, but you can get away with being so much less accurate than you can with the other 2 arrowheads that it's really favourable to actually choose that, and a lot of other people running that arrowhead as well. Now, I'm going to tell you guys straight up, this thing is a lot of fun to use. It's cool. I mean, who doesn't want to be like Rambo, right? Running around with a compound bow, shooting people. It just feels super cool. There's definitely a cool tint to this, and of course it's a weapon coming from Battlefield 3. Everyone's going to like that. But the question I really want to raise in this commentary is how does it fit into Battlefield 4, and how does it really make sense within the current scheme of weapons that we have in the game? Back in Battlefield 3, if you've never played that game, you may not be familiar with the fact that there was a crossbow in that game that came with the Aftermath DLC, and it was actually a gadget. So you could have a primary weapon, you could have a secondary, but you could also select the crossbow as one of your gadgets. Now, you had a regular arrow, which functioned much like the broadhead arrow, which would pretty much be a one-shot kill in the chest up to around 15 or 20 meters away, I would say. And as the target got further, it would start to drop a little bit below 100 damage. Then you had a balance bolt, which was very much like the bullet point. It would do less damage, but was far more accurate. You had the explosive tip, which is pretty much exactly the same as the one we have here in the video. You also had a scanner bolt, which I believe was in the game files for Battlefield 4, but strangely hasn't made it into the Final Stand DLC, so not really sure what's up with that. Now, the great thing about the crossbow in BF3 was that it was a great supplementary weapon to your primary and your secondary. So you could go with the standard bolt and you could actually use it as a bit of an oh shit close range weapon, similar to how you use the shotgun attachment for the assault rifles. You just whip it out, get a quick kill, go back to your secondary or your primary. You could use the standard bolt for the crossbow very similar in that way. The other way you could use it was to take out vehicles. So the explosive arrow would actually be able to do damage to vehicles, especially light vehicles like scout helicopters or jeeps. And the third way you could really use it was with the balanced arrow, and that would be very accurate, wouldn't do as much damage, but it would still one-shot people in the head at long range. So say you had a CQB set up, you could always run the crossbow with the balance bolt and get some nice headshots from a range, and completely silently, of course. So even if you missed your shot, you're not really giving away your position. Now, of course, it's very similar in Battlefield 4, but the one big difference is that you now have to select it as a primary weapon. And in a real round of Battlefield 4, I mean, here I'm playing TDM, and it's crossbows only, and it's all fun and games, and it is good fun. But in a real game of Battlefield, in a real game of Conquest, are you really ever going to take this weapon, except for maybe just as a bit of a joke or a bit of a laugh, over an assault rifle, or over a bolt-action sniper rifle? I would say the closest weapon akin to the Phantom at the moment is simply a bolt-action sniper rifle. And when you think that on a bolt-action sniper rifle, you can equip scopes or varying magnification, you can have things like straight pull bolts. You know, if you really want, you can just stick an iron sight on there and have it very similar to how the bow is at the moment. Why would you really ever bother going with the bow over a bolt-action sniper rifle? I just don't think anyone would ever bother doing that. I mean, I'm sure you will see people running around with this and trying it out, but in the long term, it just seems like a bit of a gimmick to me. Now, another big issue for this bow is that you can't change the weapon types on the fly. In Battlefield 3, if you equip the crossbow, you could cycle through the weapon types, and it would take, you know, a reload animation to do so. You couldn't just switch them on the fly. You would actually have to take out the bolt that was in the crossbow and replace it with the corresponding arrow, depending on which one you chose. But you could change them on the fly, so you could go to balance bolt, and you could snipe somebody from a distance. You could leave the standard bolt in there and use it in CQB, or you could switch up to the explosive bolt if you saw a scout heli incoming, and try and have a quick pot shot at him. With this bow, you can't do that. You have to select one bolt for your loadout, and that is your lot. So the question, guys, is this bow just a load of fluff, like many of the other gadgets that DICE have thrown our way over the few DLCs that we've had for the game so far? Or do you think it's actually a real contender for a spot as your primary weapon? Let me know down below how you've been getting on with the bow, and if you would actually consider using this over something like an assault rifle. In any case, I'm sure time will tell. Once we've figured out the phantom password, we can gain access to that super secret room that I'm sure all you guys have seen in Jack Frags' video, and if you haven't, then you should definitely go check that out because it's a super cool video and very informative. And once we get our hands on the real phantom bow in ranked servers, then I guess we'll see for how long people will actually use it before they decide to go back to whatever their favourite weapon was before that, or to see if they actually decide to stick it out with the phantom bow. So thank you very much for listening to this commentary, guys, and do bear in mind that even though it maybe sounds like maybe a little bit of a negative commentary, I do really approve of them putting this bow in the game. I think it's really cool. I just fully expected it to be a gadget rather than a primary weapon. So let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you ever so much for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Oh! Before I go, I better mention to you guys, next Thursday, I will be going to DreamHack, Sweden, and I will be there over the weekend until Monday. So you can probably expect somewhat of a drop in videos, and I will certainly not be streaming during that time either. So I hope you guys have fun. If I don't see you until then, hopefully I'll have a couple of videos uploaded and ready to show you guys during that time. But if not, then just a quick heads up for you guys. Alright guys, cheers. See you next time.